So let's get this ball rolling. What are your highlights from season 3 for both, if you were in it, your character and more generally?
Well, obviously everyone's going to say the Red Wedding, so I thought I would get in there first. Yeah, I enjoyed season 3 from Hodor's point of view. I got to do a little bit more freaking out and stuff, you know. Yeah, it's just a different note for the character of Hodor. But like, who didn't love the Red Wedding? I mean, it was terrible, and it was wonderful at the same time. You know what I mean? So that was definitely my highlight.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. So the Red Wedding was really amazing. No, I mean it was incredibly pulled off, and I mean I know a lot of the guys in the show, obviously, and I'd stayed away from. I tell them not to tell me what's going to happen because I'm a fan now. You know, I watch it, and I didn't know that Una Chaplin's character was going to go in the way that she did, which was particularly brutal. They really don't. They don't pull their punches. They don't hold back. So yeah, I mean that was an incredible incredible moment in the series.
And what was it like having played Renly, seeing Loras, what he was getting up to last season?
Yeah, it's difficult to talk about. I mean, actually, genuinely, when they were filming that, Finn liked to send me pictures of him and the actor who played his lover on a boat in robes. Nat Dormer loved to text me photos of them hanging out together. I was like, this isn't funny. And I just texted him back that me and Jason Momoa were doing well in the afterlife and having a great old time. It's incredible to see what they're doing with the character now. So it's
fantastic, thanks, Gethin. And how about for you, Ian? What were your highlights in season 3?
Well, all right. Yeah, I've got to say something other than the Red Wedding. I guess my highlight was, and this is actually more from sort of like being in it rather than watching it, was whenever Daenerys has kind of won over the city of Yunkai, and they come out. This is the end of the series. They come out and they sort of like lift her up, and the dragons are flying overhead. Just the whole magic of that moment and the admiration for her, I guess, that was a great moment for me, and that's one I remember shooting in this fabulous sort of Casbah outside, because we filmed in Morocco exclusively that year for that part of the story, and there's this amazing Casbah we filmed in not far from Ouarzazate, where the studios were, so that was a special moment for me.
How about you, Luke?
I suppose for me, from a personal perspective, spending as much time for my character, spending time with Crassus keeping about 4,000 women and 4 lads was 8. And then and then working with obviously James Cosmo. I think, don't hear that like that noise then? He's amazing. That guy is actually, apart from Kristian, the biggest man in the world. I think fighting James Cosmo is the best thing I've ever done. What about you, Joe?
Season 3 I only got to do one scene, which was, lucky enough to be in. Season 3, watching it was obviously the Red Wedding. I didn't see it until, the first thing about the Red Wedding, I saw the YouTube videos of the reactions first, and I was like, I've got to watch this. Something's happening on that. So yeah, I couldn't wait to watch it. Season 4 for me, obviously I had much more involvement, and I was, back at Castle Black, so yeah.
Good stuff, thanks guys. Now I want to ask, you touched on season 4 there, how you all found shooting season 4 compared to previous seasons. And for you, Gethin, I wanted to ask what your favourite memories were of shooting those seasons 1 and 2.
I have lots and lots of fond memories. It was really interesting to watch the jousting sequence in season 1. Do you remember that? I remember Ian being very, very hot. But we were there for like 6 days, and it was a really fascinating sort of lesson in how television is made. It was a complicated sequence, and seeing things. I mean, like highlights for me, just as an actor, was really learning from guys like Ian and Mark and Conleth and people I've looked up to from a little. That for me was a real privilege, and there were lots of moments like that. And then in season 2, what they did with the story and introducing Natalie Dormer's character Marjorie and how intense they made those little relationships was really great for us all. I think we enjoyed playing those scenes and getting the most out of those relationships. So yeah, I mean, there's like every day was a highlight, so it was great.
I can imagine, definitely. How about for you, Ian? How did it compare shooting season 4?
Well, I mean, likewise, I mean, that joystick stuff was amazing, and to actually see it put together and how they put it together and the amount of care and attention that's put into it. I mean, that's one of the things about this series. It's very painstaking. A lot of care and attention is given to realising those scenes. A lot of the big scenes, they need a lot of work, and they're amazing the way they do them. But I love that horse, the horse that lost its head. That was amazing, you know, it was amazing piece of construction, and amazingly clever the way they did it. I mean, some of the set and prop building in this show takes your breath away. I mean, the sets we have in the studios in Belfast, some of them are phenomenal, you know, phenomenal. There's new ones will be coming up now in Series 4 that you won't have seen, and they're so lifelike. And then you go in and you look at it, it's just a bunch of polystyrene or whatever it is, or a bit of wood painted to look like marble, but it is actually extraordinary what they do. So you kind of, one of the things about this is, I think, you know, you go in as an actor, we're a bit like the backs in rugby, we get all the accolades, you know, and the rugby, the forwards in rugby have to do all the grunt work, you know. Yeah. And this is, you know, this sort of thing is much the same. There are so many people who do so many incredibly detailed craftsman-like jobs in this that you have to applaud them, you know. And as I say, I'm just overwhelmed sometimes with just the quality of the detail and the imagination that goes into armour and costumes and set and all that kind of thing. And of course the CGI boys are amazing as well.
The highlights for myself, for the character as Pip. Pip gets to work with some other characters. Can't say what, can't say who, but yeah, get to work with different characters. It's shown me how unfit I am, so I've got to get fit again for season 5, if they put me in it. Yeah, it was just amazing to be back at Castle Black. I've never gone anywhere except Castle Black, I think. Yeah. So it's like home. So yeah, I love it. Yes, season 4 was just amazing. The stuff I saw, yeah, people are going to go crazy for it when it comes out. Yeah, that's what I can say.
How about you, Luke? How about you?
The difference between like season 4 and 3, because like for my storyline, it's not a massive world departure. It's still in the same sort of places we have been for the rest of it. But I suppose what you expect season 4 from like my storylines, I get to do more than just sort of look invisible in this season, which is a massive step up for me. You know, I get to say some like long sentences and stuff. It's great. But back to what Ian was saying, like I think people don't understand the scale of these stuff, and the detail in it is phenomenal. I mean, if you look at Castle Black and like Rastas Keep, those places actually exist. They're not just like backdrops, or they're actually there in the middle of nowhere. Actually, these little huts and castles just fully scaled. Probably could operate if they wanted to. Before it's unbelievable. It's not just impressive because they're so big. It's impressive because the amount of care and attention paid to the whole thing. And for me, it was my first job, and I was like, oh, is this what every job's like then? when I went on and I was like, no, it's not.
And how about you, Kristian, as well? How does it compare making season 4 to previous seasons for you?
I think compared to season 1 to 3, we've done a lot of camping. Really, in season 3 we moved from campsite to campsite, killed a few rabbits. But I think you got a sense of, at the end of the season, you've all seen season 3, haven't you? Yeah, so, well, I don't care anyway, really. But we kind of go under the wall, and we're going into the wilderness, and basically you've got a handicapped kid, you've got 2 other kids, and you've got me, who's not much use, really. And you get a sense that we're going out into this impending danger, and we're probably not going to make it. But really, that's what season 4 is to me. It's like we've gone out into the unknown, and like we're really vulnerable. And yeah, we definitely get to play on that in season 4. It's a lot different. There's no camping. There's no marshmallows. And yeah, season 1 stuck out for me. I had to do that bloody nude scene. Which anyone else here have to do a nude scene? No. Yeah, you have to do that much. Yeah. Semi. A semi? Okay. Write that one down, guys. You heard it here first. I don't particularly want to do another one again. I'm still finding bits of pubic hair stuck to me. it's my own, of course.
Can you say there's a little joke about that? Somebody turned up wearing a prosthetic.
Yeah, the first time I saw my miniature Hodor, which is what they called it, it was a prosthetic penis about this size. It was Richard Madden. He came running up to me in the car park, and he had it strapped onto him. And he was like, "Meet your prosthetic, Kristian," and okay. But also, they actually made, the funny thing is, they actually made two of them. There was one with like tight afro pube hair, which obviously, I've got grey hair, guys, which obviously wasn't mine, and there was one more like me, so. Do you want me to tell the story? It's really awful.
Definitely tell that story.
I'll do it really quickly because you guys have heard of it 15,000 times. Right, basically they said it was a closed set. There wasn't, there was like 200 people there. They made these really horrible prosthetic penis panties. Horrible, had to be CGI'd out. They had to plait the pubic hair into my own pubic hair. Yeah, awful. Poor makeup girl. And they had to paint it to my own skin colour while it was on me. Yeah, so we had to do this scene. It was in a forest glade in Carryduff outside Belfast. And it was raining, the power generators kept going out, and there were two are the children here? Okay. There were two pheasants who wanted to love each other on each side of the set, and every time I came out in this prosthetic penis pants, the pheasants would call to each other and go like this. So we had to keep redoing the scene, and it was definitely one of the worst days of my life. So it was all for you.
And they talk about the glamour of acting. Now guys, let's open up the floor. Who's got questions for any of our cast members here today? Take one in the front row first of all. Yes, this guy here.
Which character deaths surprised you like the most?
Obviously the big one, right?
That's Ron B.
Yeah, I hadn't read the books, so I was like, when I read that, I was like...
I was, how they captured the death of Roz, Esme Bianco's character, I was sort of struck by just how beautiful that shot was. I mean, it's an incredibly difficult image to look at for lots of reasons, obviously. But so to capture it in a very static, almost respectful way. I don't know what I mean by that, but that image has sort of, you know, like really told that story very simply. A very, very difficult story to tell. You know, I thought they did that well. You know, like, I mean, yeah, gosh, that Joffrey.
Absolutely, yeah. Anyone else want to say what the most surprising death was on the show, apart from Red Wedding?
It's hard to get surprised. My mother is a huge Game of Thrones fan, and long before I ever had the part, and basically when I got the part, she said, okay, he dies, he dies, he dies, he dies, he dies, he dies, he dies. So even when I got the scripts, it wasn't really much of a surprise. You know, it was totally ruined.
How about for you, Ian and Joe?
Well, I think the great thing about the deaths is that you don't see them coming. You know, that's the great thing. They're so shocking because there's no way in which it's sort of like prefigured. So, I mean, obviously the death of Ned Stark was sort of astonishing. I came across that first reading the book, and he is so much the hero and the sort of the moral kind of centre of the piece that you expect you're going to go through the whole story with this guy and he's going to be your man. And there he goes. You think, well, where the hell do we go from here, you know? I have a great sympathy for the Stark family because there seems to be an agenda to get rid of as many of them as possible. But I have a sneaking feeling that there will be some, this is not something I know, this is just me positing a guess here, that in some way or another the Starks are going to come back on top in some way. I don't know what yet, but some Stark is going to emerge, you know, triumphant in some way, I hope, I think.
Yeah, the return of the Starks. We all wait with bated breath.
Who do you think deserves to win the Iron Throne?
Rast. Next question.
Who do you think deserves to be on the Iron Throne? Rast. That's a controversial answer, sure.
definitely not a Lannister, and it's about time several of them got their just desserts.
What do you think? It's kind of changed over the last few seasons, actually. I obviously want Stark on the throne. I don't think they want it by the end of it, but I think probably Arya. Arya or Bran. I think Bran will also be a fantastic king. Although I have a feeling he's got bigger issues on his mind. Not really. But, yeah, I think Arya's probably a good choice. She's a badass.
How about you, Gethin?
Yeah, we sort of came, I think we've talked about this before. We came up with this idea of like a small council, almost, running the show, which has like Arya and Bran, Brienne there, and maybe
Brienne's a good choice.
Brienne, yeah. Part of like a strong group of good people.
Yeah. You all touched on briefly with some of the sets that you've seen, but what are your personal favourites out of some of the sets that you've actually been on in Game of Thrones?
The first set I got to shoot on was the small council. That was my day one. Pretty much everybody was there. And the reason why I remember that so clearly, it was my first day on set, but also it was like walking into a Caravaggio painting. Like the way it was lit, you could see the shafts of light. I mean, it really was like walking into a painting, and I think that is something I'll never forget. Also, Renly's camp on the beach, where I had an army and that was pretty fun. Yeah, awesome.
Did you feel like you could take over the world that day?
Well, actually, funny enough, I do remember a very distinct feeling of having a crown on my head, seeing my the army, the supporting artists walk down to the beach on day one of filming at Renly's camp. And I sort of had this little thought in my head, like, I guess it's hubris, oh, yeah, it would be pretty good to be king, yeah. And the universe conspired to send a small hurricane through the set, and we had to cancel filming for about a month. That set was amazing because we got to do it twice. It was a set so good we built it twice. But yeah.
Anyway, any other takers for that question?
I think I could say this without getting my fingers cut off. There's some brilliant pyramid sets coming up in Series 4 which are stunning, and the same thing, it's not just the sets look great, but they're brilliantly lit, and the same thing, you get these wonderful shafts of light coming through. They're going to take your eye out, because they really are incredibly impressive.
My first day shooting it was in Winterfell, and it was the arrival of the Lannisters to Winterfell with Margaery and everything. I think it was the biggest get-together of cast ever, people who will never meet again. And at Winterfell, first in season 1, it was inside a real castle in Northern Ireland, but during filming they broke part of the castle, so they had to move it for season 2. And I remember thinking to myself, how could they recreate this? So we went to in the middle of a field in this town, just in the middle of nowhere, and they'd lifted a castle and completely moved it inch for inch, like literally every grain of straw. We don't have grains of straw. Okay, pieces of straw. Every piece of straw was exactly the same. It smelled the same. It just felt like a real castle. And it's incredible, the level of detail. Like everyone says, we're all going to say this. The sets are just unbelievably real.
My very first day, not even on this show, but ever, my very first job, I remember we did at Castle Black. I remember walking in, and I was like, oh, it's going to be like in the studio, Suddenly you go in and there's actually a castle there, and like 400 members of crew, and Peter Dinklage and James Cosmo looking, and Owen Teal standing there. And I was like, that is unbelievable. It wasn't actually just the set that shocked me. I think what people don't always talk about is the locations. I mean, we spent about a month out in Iceland, and that was, in its own way, even beyond that, it was incredible. I mean, the location scout is amazing in this, really. I mean, and for me, I was like, this is a job, this is unbelievable. I mean, I just hung around in Iceland for a bit, and then knocked about a castle. Do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It's such a privilege to be a part of this project, no matter how big or small, And
can I just start by congratulating Kristian, saying thank you for being so brave, has been coming out just a couple of days ago. So I'd like to thank you for giving hope and inspiration to young children who are still in the closet. So I'd just like to say thank you.
Hearing stuff like that makes it worth it, you know, but I have to say, you know, I've been out since I was 14 years old. The first person I ever told was my mother. You know, it's just, I've been lucky to have the support of my friends and family my entire life, but it was just so weird to mention something so casually in an interview, and because it's not a big deal to me, I expect it not to be a big deal to the rest of the world. You know, and it shouldn't be a big deal to the rest of the world for anybody.
I agree.
But what I've said is, if one person out there can feel a little bit better, or identify with one other person, it's, you know, I'll take the flak. I don't care. Like, I have my support network, and I don't care what other people think about me, as long as your friends and family are there. So, but there you go.
Can I just ask, if your character could meet any other character in any situation, who would it be and why?
I'd like to see how Rast and Margaery got on. That'd be quite funny.
How do you feel about that, Renly?
Difficult situation.
Renly's fun.
I've always had a sort of a fondness for the feistiness of wee Arya. I'd like to meet her when she's older.
In season 3, Balon Greyjoy received his son's penis in a box. What's the worst present you've ever received?
Actually, it was this time I received a penis in a box. No, not really.
I gave young Jack Gleeson a present once, and he sent it back. Because on the set, I'd write him little notes from Uncle Renly telling him to stop being a naughty boy. And I sent him a jelly baby as a gift into his trailer with a little note telling him what he should be doing, and, you know, and he sent it back with the head bitten off. So that's kind of
At least you didn't try to re-gift it with the head off it. So you said you have one as well.
Yeah, it's really random. It's just literally nothing to do with Game of Thrones. It's the worst present ever. When I was like 5 years old, literally I remember this. This is how scarred I was. My grandfather said, "I've got you the best present ever." And I was like, okay, it's going to be like a He-Man figure or something, and it was 4 pots of yogurt. I was a 5-year-old, couldn't do with 4 pots of yogurt. But that was a shit present. So
FYI.
I like yogurt, but I don't want them as a present. Buy me a one.
Joe, did you have something to add?
My present's been alright. It's just from, I used to work at a double glazing company while I was trying to do the acting, like working myself up. And I kind of hit the targets, and they said, "Oh, we've got something for you." And it was just like a alarm clock from the pound shop. That was for hitting my targets. I was always early, so I don't know why I got an alarm clock. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was the most crappiest present I've ever got. Plus, I had to buy a battery.
If it was up to you to finish the books, what would you do with the character of Joffrey?
He's got to die, you know, pure and simple. In actual fact, I mean, one of the things that's kind of surprised me is that how much people hate Joffrey and don't seem to have the same antipathy to Cersei. I think she's got to go as well. I mean, I've never been a fan of Cersei either.
Is there something you can do that's worse than killing them?
Yeah.
What's that?
I don't know what it is, but we should think about it. We should find out.
Slow death.
Slow death. Slow death. Yeah, really make sure it lasts. Hurts. I'm a pacifist.
Any other thoughts on what you'd like to have done to Joffrey?
You give it like a brand treatment. You push him out a window, and then you can give him a Theon treatment. You know, like you combine two together and then leave him in a castle to rot.
That sounds painful. some some good thoughts there.
Hi, I don't know if you guys are aware, there's obviously a lot of parodies of Game of Thrones. There's kind of, how to say this in front of children, an adults only parody, which I believe is called Game of Bones. Have any of you guys seen it, and were you disappointed not to appear in it?
No. Haven't seen any of it, no, and very glad not to.
I've seen a trailer, but I haven't actually...
A trailer for what?
Game of Bones. There's a trailer. There is a little trailer, isn't there? And then you can watch the thing, but yeah. I saw the trailer. It didn't show anything.
Question for Gethin. You see more of Renly in the show than you do in the books, but there's still relatively little. If there was more sort of screen time, what would you do, sort of reading between the lines, things you'd imagined, or otherwise, what would you add in, sort of thing?
Was that like what story would you like to see? Well, I sort of, as preparation for the second series, I wrote myself a little short story about what Loras and Renly did between the seasons, and it's all. Which involved negotiating military strategy with Mace Tyrell and meeting Margaery and how that went, and the marriage, and I guess if I think actually as characters, them going to meet Loras' father and negotiating the marriage with Margaery, once I started thinking about it, actually that's quite an interesting story. So if they were like a spin-off Renly and Loras show. Dear David and Dan. I think that chapter of his life would be quite interesting. I also would be interested to see him as a younger, almost as a child growing up in that court when Robert was a real war hero and looking up to his older brothers and why he was so different from them. And I suppose that could be interesting as well. But there's every character, and the reason why it's such good drama is every character you could write a whole spin-off show just about each character because they're fully fleshed out,
My question is for Kristian, because you asked me to save it to the panel. Can you talk me through your audition process for Hodor?
You were supposed to forget. Okay, I auditioned for a movie called Hot Fuzz, which I'm sure you all know. Rory got the part, which I was going for, funny enough. Anyway, 4 years later I got a call from Dana Gold saying I would like you to try out for this part for Game of Thrones. So I got 15 minutes notice. I think I had a chicken goujon in my mouth. I was in a restaurant having my lunch and my agent called me and said, right, we need to find a child. I was like, what? We need to find a child for you to carry. And I had to go to this 40th birthday party where there was a child. And there was a ring of 40-year-old women around me, and I was carrying this random child who I didn't know. And they were all calling me in different directions, and I was trying to demonstrate different emotions. And then I had to lift a table above my head to prove I was strong enough for the job. So it's extremely random, but I got me the part, so you have to do these things.
I went through the standard process. Just got a phone call from the agent to go and audition, but I went through 3 rounds going for another part before I did this. I went for Gren. I did three rounds for Gren, and then they just gave me this one. But yeah, it's pretty standard, I think, but it was good. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, it was quite. It was quite a quick process, isn't it? With the Night's Watch, it was just we didn't really keep on getting recalls and you do on other jobs and stuff. Myself had an audition. They didn't give you the script or anything. They just give you your lines. So I had 2 lines. Didn't really know what they meant because obviously I needed a bit of backstory and stuff like that. They told me what the line meant and stuff like that, and then just done it once or twice, and then heard 2 weeks later I got the part as Pip. There were so many people that day. I didn't know what they were looking for and stuff like that. But yeah, just happy I got the part.
Yeah, Very similar. I mean, I went in and met them, and they actually read me for 3 different things. And then, in fact, I went back a second time, and we were focused on Barristan. And I guess about a couple of weeks later, I got the word that that was going to happen. So, very happy.
Which other parts are you going for?
Mormont and Tywin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read for those 3. Yeah.
How about you, Gethin?
Yeah, very similarly, went along to a couple of meetings, well, a few meetings actually, over the process. I just remember that in the last meeting, I think they made me do the scene where Renly speaks to Ned Stark about 17 times, and there was this little kitchenette at the back of the studio, or a little like space where each time they go, yeah, and again, and I'd go and like just to sort of hide, and I'd just be on my own, pretending to be doing some kind of prep, just kind of going, what am I, like, what else can I do? And then they're like, you ready? Yeah, I'm ready, yeah, I just needed to focus. But yeah, so I mean, it was a fun meeting, but it was like a lot of times, it's like, I'm either getting this right or getting it really wrong. But it worked out very well in the end.
It's funny, because the guy who I read with was a brilliant actor. You know, Robert.
Stern, yeah.
Like on your day, you'll act. There's no point. You know what I mean?
Robert Stern, who read in with pretty much everyone who got cast, ended up playing the King's Steward in King's Landing because he was such an incredible actor. He must have read all the other parts for other people, opposite other actors. And he was brilliant every time, and the producers noticed this and sort of demanded that he be in the show himself because he's just incredible.
What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on set for each of you?
Season 1 when Jon Snow and Jon Snow, Sam got stuck in the lift, and we was having lunch. We was downstairs under the tent, and then everyone's like said the lift stopped, and it kind of like dropped sideways, and we was all like, oh, look at them. And
like 4 hours or something.
they were really scared. They were up there for about 4 hours, and then some guy climbed up with his big muscles, climbed up, like kind of uncranked something, and obviously it came down. And but that was quite funny, but obviously we was really worried about them. No, we was.
It wasn't funny necessarily for me, but someone got a kick out of it, because I was fully dressed up in my lovely leather outfit for season 1, and it was raining outside, and the costume department very kindly gave me an umbrella and said, be careful. I was like, yeah, of course. I'll just skip from my trailer to the studio. So it's about a 5-minute walk. So I'm walking over, it's raining cats and dogs in Belfast, but I'm keeping it all protected. And then this big car, just a Jag, just swoops around the corner and completely nails me with a puddle, like splashes all over me, and I'm just sort of stood there going, what the? And I'm stood there soaking, and the driver, a really lovely, big lad, gets out and goes, oh, Gethin, I'm so sorry. And Sean Bean gets out the back and goes, that was funny, that. So he enjoyed it.
So it's a little bit of you please when they kill him off then, no, not really. Any other funny set stories?
Not as funny as his story, but during the filming for this season, if there's ever a blooper reel, this should make it into it. Without giving away any of the story, I sort of stand up and warn of danger by saying Hodor, and it was on top of this little hill, and I stood up and I stood in my cloak, and I literally went down the hill, and I was lying at the bottom of this ditch, and the director comes up, Michelle McLaren, comes over and goes, can we carry on? And I'm like, I'm lying here? Don't worry about me. But yeah.
There's a lot of characters that people hate for various reasons, but is there any one that you think is misunderstood?
Rast, yeah.
I think, this is going to be controversial, but I think Cersei Lannister, slightly, because, I know this bit wasn't in the book, but one of my favourite scenes from anything so far was the conversation she had with Robert about how it all went wrong, how he never loved her and stuff, and you got to see a bit behind the mask of Cersei and why she's so angry and vindictive, and I kind of relate to that. And yeah, I think there's more to Cersei than meets the eye, so I kind of like her. And she's very protective of the children, obviously, as well, which is admirable.
I don't know if Varys is misunderstood, but I really hope that there's a good heart underneath all of that spoilering. I don't know. I'm intrigued by his character because I think, but then I don't know. Is it Varys? But that might be a dangerous call.
Keeping us guessing, isn't it?
There's another devious one. I can't imagine he could possibly be misunderstood. Is Littlefinger. You know, I mean, the interesting thing is, as you get into this story, so many of them have a backstory. I mean, if you knew Littlefinger's backstory, if you knew Cersei's backstory, Tyrion's, Jaime's, there's an argument that somewhere in there there's probably a good person that somebody screwed up somewhere back when, you know. But on the surface, it's hard to see that. You know.
So guys, I've been told that that's our final question today. We've had loads of time with the cast and we're really appreciative of them being here today with us and telling us all about their experiences on the previous seasons and the ones to come. Let's say thank you very, very much to the cast of Game of Thrones.